Good morning, you guys. I am Jax. For everybody that does not know me, I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to First Things First with Simply Cyber. I know probably some people are probably surprised to see me. I'll give it a few minutes as everybody starts trickling in. I'm really excited about the first thing first today. I might have taken a little bit of a sneak peek. Jerry, for anybody that's joining for the first time, Jerry is out this week enjoying a little vacation. So it'll be a lot of fun. You are with me today. Bill, good morning, you guys. Cyber Insight, good to see you all. I love seeing familiar faces in here. For you guys that don't know me, I actually run a YouTube channel called Outpost Gray. So definitely go check it out. It is not as big as Simply Cyber, but we definitely drop some knowledge bombs every week. I love it. So what do you guys have planned for Memorial Weekend? I want to know. I'm really excited about this. I am going, well, weather dependent. I think I'm going to still do it anyway. We'll see. I'm going backcountry backpacking in the Shenandoah National Forest. So last night I stayed up till about 11 p.m. Going through, have you ever opened a backpacking map, and just started like mapping routes, getting grid coordinates? It takes a little bit of a skill. So I did that till about 11 o'clock last night. I'm going to be doing it by myself for a couple of nights. So I'm pretty excited about it. Jess, it's great to see you guys here. So excited. Before we jump in, I just want to do a quick shout out and thanks to our stream sponsor, Barricade Cyber Solutions. Cyber criminals have stolen your company's data and derailed your business operations, but Barricade Cyber Solutions will help you resolve this ransomware attack and get your business back on track. So thank you, Eric Taylor. If you guys haven't seen him, reach out to him. If he's not in the chat, he may pop in later today. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So everybody, just so you know, if you're new here, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be reviewing the cybersecurity headlines. You can go and check this out going to the CISOseries.com. Let me know if you have any issues hearing the stream. All right, guys, let's jump into it.
It's Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. Interpol warns nation-state malware could become a commodity on the dark web soon. Interpol Secretary General Jürgen Stock declared that in the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the malware developed by both nation-state actors and non-state actors represents a serious risk for critical infrastructure and organizations worldwide.
Okay, so first off, I'm not surprised by this at all. After I did a quick review of this, and I quit reading about halfway through because this is very common. This is going to happen. I actually think it's going to happen. I think this document says within the next 3 to 5 years. I personally think that it's going to happen sooner. We're already seeing a leakage of different types of malware on the dark web. It's already known that threat actors, instead of just script kiddies coming out, we're seeing more diversified types of malware hitting the market because the tooling is becoming easier. And you'll see in one of these reports that things are starting to be recycled. So I'm not surprised by this. We've already seen stuff like this happen. Especially with the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, this is going to happen. The spillage of nation-state cyber security tooling, it's going to start spilling out to the general populace, if you want to call it that, where cyber games and other individuals are able to use these toolings. This is just the world we live in. So there's not really a whole lot to say on this report right here. All right, let's hop into the next one.
Threat actors could perform reverse engineering of military-made malicious code and use their own versions in attacks in the wild. The scenario also opens the doors to false flag operations. Nation-state actors could have access to cyber weapons used in the conflict and use them in attacks in the wild, making attribution impossible.
Now we're on to the next one.
General Motors hit by cyber attack exposing car owners' personal information. The company announced that it was hit by a credential stuffing attack last month that exposed customer information and allowed hackers to redeem reward points for gift cards. Malicious login activity was detected between April 11th and 29th of this year. The company also stated their belief that unauthorized parties gained access to customer login credentials that were previously compromised on other non-GM sites, and then reused those credentials on the customer's GM account.
Okay, so this drives me crazy. Absolutely, completely nutty. For anybody who doesn't understand credential stuffing, it is a way of it. Cyber criminals will take information, will collect stolen account information, and then will reuse that information to breach companies like GM. What is so frustrating for me is password management, and changing your password and updating your password would resolve this problem. And we keep going back to this over and over again. I think we actually had yesterday, we had a report on credential stuffing again. And it blows my mind that we're still having breaches happen because individuals are not updating passwords or making passwords more complex, or hey, using multi-factor authentication. I bet you multi-factor authentication might have been able to mitigate this risk. They also stated in here that they were unsure based on the investigation. They are unsure where the information was obtained from. Likely the adversary could have been stuffing the credentials from an earlier breach, or they could have gotten that information from another vendor. That's unknown. But the overall frustrating part of this is that it was old credentials as how they were successful with breaching a multi-billion-dollar company like GM. Mind blown. Seriously. Okay.
The data stolen included
I'm
names, addresses.
I'm really, really not very good at knowing when the podcast ends into the next one. So my apologies.
Photographs,
Bear with me.
OnStar membership data, car mileage and service history, and Wi-Fi hotspot settings, including passwords. Canada to ban China's Huawei and ZTE from its 5G networks. The restrictions were announced by the country's industry minister on Thursday, who said it would improve Canada's mobile internet services and protect the safety and security of Canadians. In making this move, Canada now joins the UK, the US, Australia, and New Zealand, which together make up an intelligence sharing arrangement named 25's, a group that evolved during the Cold War as a mechanism for monitoring the Soviet Union and sharing classified information. But Huawei Canada says it was disappointed by the decision, which it says is political.
Okay, isn't everything we do like as a country political? I'm not surprised by that at all. And so for you guys to have a little bit of history about Huawei, I actually wrote a paper on this because this is a pretty big deal. Huawei, so in 2019, there was a Huawei scandal. It was a security scandal that Huawei was accused of by the UK, I believe. And there were a lot of activities that were taking place by the Chinese government that were seen as malicious, and Huawei was spearheading a lot of these actions. And they had determined that UK and other individuals, 5i, had determined that they were not going to utilize Huawei as a supply chain for, say, 5G. Like it was proposed to ban Huawei from the US federal government. So what I did is I actually pulled up a document for you guys. It is, okay, I don't have it on here. I did have it on here, but it's not on here anymore. Hold on, let me pull it up for you guys. So there's a document that goes into this. Here we go. Okay. So building a trusted ICT supply chain, and why I wanted to share this all with you is I think it's really important to understand how much Huawei is tied into the overall 5G infrastructure. And when you block a company like this, it's going to create complications for the services that you can supply your civilians and what am I trying to say? The people that live within your country. It's going to be challenging because Huawei is actually tied into other organizations. And just so you know, the large players in the telecommunication space is Cisco. We've got Nokia, Ericsson, and Samsung right down here. And when you block somebody like Huawei, you're impacting certain countries that may not be able to have access to the Cisco, the Nokia, the Ericsson. And when Canada decided to do this, yes, it was definitely political. I think there was a lot of pressure from the Five Eye. And just so you know, like Five Eye is an intelligence organization, like they said, that was founded during World War II to help with intelligence sharing. So when one person does it, you get pressure by another to make that movement as well. So when your civilians are not able to utilize certain 5G infrastructure, you might have complications, then you're going to have frictions in that environment. So what I'm going to be very curious about is how they're going to rectify the interconnections that they're going to have with other organizations, because Huawei is very large. It is one of the key players in this space. It is, in a way, it is the tip of the spear within 5G technology. And by banning an organization like this from the US federal government, Five Eye, UK, what you're forcing your government to have to do is to create technology, to be inventive, to start leading that 5G initiative, basically replacing Huawei. So it's going to be a challenge. This is going to be a lift. I'd like to see what happens here. I can tell you from writing a paper, for example, in Africa, Huawei is one of the #1 telecommunication companies in Africa. And I know that they were contemplating doing a ban of Huawei in that country. But if they did that, it would not only impact the civilians and the people that live in that country, but it would also impact US aid and Peace Corps and other organizations like that would be working in that country. So you would have a lot of impact out there. So I would stay tuned for this. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of Huawei. It was in the news just over about 6 months to a year ago, and then it was really big in 2019 when there was actually a line put into the National Defense Act specifically about Huawei. So that's a pretty big one. All right.
Ransomware attacks increasing at an alarming rate, says report. Ransomware breaches have increased by 13%, more than the last 5 years combined, according to the Verizon Business 2022 Data Breach Investigations Report. In addition to the increase in ransomware breaches, it also found that 82% of cyber breaches involve the human element, including social attacks, errors, and misuse. It also found that 62% of incidents in the system intrusion pattern involved threat actors compromising partners. Mm-hmm. The report further illustrated how one supply chain incident can cause a wide range of consequences. Quote, compromising the right partner is a force multiplier for threat actors. Unlike a financially motivated actor, nation-state threat actors may skip the breach altogether and opt to simply keep the access to leverage at a later time. End quote.
I am not surprised by this at all. Everything in this report, I have not read this report. It just came out yesterday. I will be printing it. I will be reading through it. I highly encourage anybody that's watching this right now to definitely dive into this report. I usually read this Verizon business report as well as Mandiant's report that they come out with every year on malware-focused data. And everything's on the rise. I'm not surprised, except for our stock market. That is not on the rise right now. But one of the last points they said was human error is on the rise. Not surprised. We've got to educate our people to not click, to use multi-factor authentication, to update our passwords and not reuse old passwords or old usernames that could have possibly been part of a breach earlier. A lot of this can be mitigated. I believe that's in this report. Again, I haven't read it, but none of this is surprising to me at all. I also believe that ransomware as a whole is just going to become more complex, and it's going to continue to be on a rise. When you see something that's working and that's successful, why would you not keep utilizing that? And speaking from an adversary side, remember that these adversaries, this is a business for them. And when they see something that is working, hence malware that will encrypt your data, that will exfil your data, that they can resell it on the black market so that they can get paid for it. There's all these different avenues of making money. Why wouldn't they keep doing that type of work? So just think about that and then figure out ways, how can you better protect yourself and your organization to prevent being the statistic in this report. So interesting report, not surprised at all though.
And now let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor, optiv.com/zero trust. That's OPTIV.
All right, Optiv.
.com/zero trust.
All right. Didn't get through that very well, but
Trend Micro fixes bug Chinese hackers exploited for espionage. Trend Micro says it has patched a DLL hijacking flaw in Trend Micro security used by the Chinese threat group Moshen Dragon to sideload malicious DLLs and deploy malware. As Sentinel Labs revealed in an early May report, the attackers exploited the fact that security products run with high privileges on Windows to plant and load their own maliciously crafted DLL into memory, allowing them to elevate privileges and execute code. After analyzing the report and its product line, the company discovered that only the Trend Microsecurity consumer-focused product was affected, with no other commercial or business products impacted.
Okay, I think I stopped that on the right time. All right, so this is really, I think, in my opinion, a situational awareness. Like, good job, Trend Micro, for fixing a bug that the Chinese hacker exploited for espionage. I went through this, and just so you guys know too, DLL is a library that contains code and data that can be used by more than one program at the same time. So leveraging and doing a DLL hijacking allows an adversary to be able to get into a network and elevate privileges rapidly and move laterally through the network. That's why something like this is a pretty severe vulnerability, and being able to patch it, that's great. Now it's the organizations actually rolling out that patch within their organization. Really nothing significant to report here. Things like this happen, vulnerabilities happen, and then adversaries identify them, they leverage them, and they utilize them to breach networks. So be aware of this. What I would do, if you work for an organization, you're the CISO, maybe you're a security lead, I might check out the CVE, see if it impacts you, see if you have this vulnerability, possible vulnerability on your network, and then go ahead and patch it. All right.
Screencastify Chrome extension flaws allow webcam hijacks. The popular Screencastify Chrome extension has fixed a vulnerability that allowed malicious sites to hijack users' webcams and steal recorded videos. However, security flaws still exist that could be exploited by unscrupulous insiders. The vendor acknowledged the cross-site scripting vulnerability and promptly fixed it after security researcher Vladimir Palant reported it responsibly on February 14th of this year. Screencastify is a screen recorder, video editor, and media sharing browser extension with over 10 million installs on the Chrome Web Store.
Okay. So this gets me really fired up because I worked for fintech for a while, a financial firm, and one of the biggest areas where we would have false positives, we would have a lot of beaconing, a lot of traffic going off of our network, a large majority of time. And then when I say a large majority, 50 to 75% of the time when we would see beaconing, probably 75% of the time, it would be a Chrome extension. And it was extremely frustrating because I worked for a pretty large financial institution and we were unable to just block all Chrome extensions and then just whitelist a few that the users could actually download. So they could download anything. They didn't know what it looked like to have one that looked a little suspicious. They would just download anything and everything. And then they would, adversaries, leverage these Chrome extensions to exfil data. I've seen Chrome extensions being used for Bitcoin mining and being able to get into your network. This one right here is hijacking the webcam. And what frustrates me about this the most, first off, put a sticky note or something on your webcam, because That's one of the easiest ways of solving this too, at least for being able to turn on your camera. Now, this can do recording, which kind of makes me a little nervous because if you've given an individual access then to this Chrome extension, then that adversary is likely able to use all of those resources to collect on you. That could be listening in, it could be turning on your camera, the myriad of things. I haven't dug into what the capabilities are, but that's what my assumption would be. So the biggest thing is make sure your Chrome extension is good. Now, what's really interesting about this is he was saying 10 million downloads. That's typically what you will look at to identify if a Chrome extension is legit. So this already right here, I'm looking at this, I would have probably downloaded this because it had, and this is actually flatlined because that's the max download figure. So there could be 20 million people have downloaded this. That's a large number. So when I look at that, I think, okay, this is a legit extension. It'll be fine on my computer. And then no, it wasn't. So nothing is secure when you download. I personally don't like Chrome extensions. I have one, and I love it. It's Grammarly. I love Grammarly. Probably isn't the best option. Who knows? It's a Ukrainian company, but that is the only Chrome extension. I'm willing to take the risk on that. But I know people have a dozen Chrome extensions. You don't need that many because the more that you have, the more it's going to make you vulnerable and susceptible to a possible cyber attack. So just keep that in mind. And then just put a sticky on your camera, please. Just put a sticky or get one of those slide things that you can put on your Mac or your HP or whatever laptop you have, so you can turn the camera off. That is the only way that you can prevent having your camera surveil you, basically. Because if it's turned on, it'll just see black.
CISA adds 41 vulnerabilities to list of bugs used in cyber attacks. The added vulnerabilities come from a wide range of years, with the oldest disclosed in 2016 and the most recent being a Cisco iOS XR vulnerability fixed last Friday, which allows attackers to write arbitrary files in the containerized file system, retrieve Redis database information, or write to the Redis in-memory database. Other flaws of interest are two Android Linux kernel flaws tracked as CVE 2021-1048 and 0920, as well as flaws concerning Cisco, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Mozilla, Windows, Facebook, Adobe, and WebKit GTK.
Yeah, okay. So from this, if you are somebody that works in the security department, a CISO, this is great for you because, or even CTI, what I would have done when I worked in cyber threat intel is I might take this data and I might take it over to my intel guys or to my security guys to have them review these 41 vulnerabilities. I might review them and see if any of them could impact our network. So that's what I would do. I would go in, I would check out what are these vulnerabilities, look at the catalog, and then I would make that adjustment of my network if they impacted my network. This is great. I love CISA. Big fan of Jen Easterly. I love what she's doing. I think that CISA is spearheading a lot of the changes that we're going to see in the cybersecurity space, especially within just overall cybersecurity and protection. But we're also seeing a lot of big movements in the federal space because of CISA. So not a whole lot to report here. Definitely go check those vulnerabilities out and see if any of those that were uploaded, if any of them can be exploited or if they're on your network or associated with what you do.
There are still malware-laden PDFs in emails exploiting bugs from 2017. HP's cybersecurity people have uncovered an old-school email campaign that ticks all the boxes. Messages with a PDF attached that embeds a Word document that, upon opening, infects the victim's Windows PC with malware by exploiting a 4-year-old code execution vulnerability in Microsoft Office. Lacing a PDF with a malicious Word document has not been used much in the past decade, according to the HP Wolf security researchers. Criminals have preferred Office file formats such as Word and Excel to deliver malicious code rather than PDFs, as users are more used to getting and opening docx and .xlsx files, and malware hidden in PDF formats is apparently not as useful for social engineering attacks.
Okay, so this goes back to just don't click if you don't know the individual that's sending it to you. If you're unsure, maybe, and it states in here that one of the techniques is spoofing an email, which that's usually we've seen that in the space. That's not new. The reason for that is to create that trust. So if you get an email from your boss, you're likely going to trust that more than you are from some user at xyz.com sending you an email. You're hopefully likely not going to click on this. What I find interesting about this is that right here goes against the norm of the past 10 years. This kind of goes back to one of the first reports that we were listening to was the leaking of nation state TTPs and cyber weapons. We're going to see a recycle of weapons. We're going to see new weapons coming into the space. We're going to see a recycle of legacy weapons. Why not? And I think one of the things that we're going to start seeing is it's hard already to stay abreast and stay ahead of the current threatscape and emerging threats and emerging adversaries. And so you're doing all these patches, you're doing all of these updates. Well, let's say you've got a new CISO that comes in. He came in like he or she came in 5 to 10 years ago, did a restructure, really refine the architectural framework of the organization. Maybe some of the things that were in place 5 to 10 years ago, security-wise, aren't in place anymore because you're forward thinking and you're really focused on the current CVEs that are out, the current threats that you know that are targeting your specific industry. Adversaries are going to recycle work. We're going to start seeing it more and more. I believe we're going to start seeing more legacy things come out that are probably 20 years old because we're going to start seeing technology move ahead. But I think we're going to forget about those security flaws that happened 10 years ago. And we're going to forget that PDF can also be leveraged as an exploit because a lot of times we think it's just macro enabled. So we're thinking Excel and Word documents. And we've forgotten that PDFs can also be utilized as a tool, as a technique to be able to get you to click, to download that malware. I just say don't click on anything. Don't click on it unless you know who it's coming from. Don't be afraid to just write an email back to your CEO if they send you an email with an attachment just to confirm. What I ideally like is that organizations, they create a policy where maybe you can't do attachments, or maybe you can only do certain types of attachments, or maybe you only use SharePoint. So you don't send attachments, but instead you use a portal where you share those documents out with one another. There's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, but this right here just goes back to think before you click and pay attention to what is coming into your network. All right, that concludes it today. Before we wrap up, you guys probably saw it when I was kind of going through some of my browser tabs up here, but I just want to make a quick announcement about a podcast that I co-host on called Two Cyber Chicks. Pretty excited about this. That is it right there. Erica McDuffie is the one on the right. And we have been running this. We've actually had a podcast for over a year with ITSP Magazine. And we rebranded to Two Cyber Chicks from our original name was Hackers and Hexen. And we rebranded in January of this year, kicked it off with Two Cyber Chicks. And we are thrilled to announce that we have been nominated for the European Cybersecurity Blogger Award. So please go out and vote. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in chat. It literally takes less than 10 seconds. I would be so grateful if you took a few minutes and you just went in and you clicked on us, and that's it. You can click on others if you want, but we're the very first category under noob in 00B. Just click on it. Mean the world to us. Thank you. And then last thing, because I gotta pump this, just so you guys know, I have a live stream. It's called Outpost Gray, is my YouTube channel. I live stream every Thursday right before Simply Cyber Outpost Gray goes live. So I go 3:30 to 4:30. Simply Cyber, he does his longer streams from 4:30 to 5:30 every Thursday. So Thursdays are the day. Josh is typically doing the morning with Coffee with Josh or Joe. I can't remember what your show is, Josh. But his is great too, 9 a.m. I think on Thursdays. But Thursday at 3:30, we're going to be doing multi-factor authentication. We're going to be hacking it. I'm going to have Mike Jones on the show. He's the haunted hacker. So you don't want to miss out on that. It'll be a great time. Thank you guys. I know I wasn't Gerald, but I appreciate you all showing up and your support. I saw the chat blowing up. You guys are the best. I was thrilled to be here. So, hey, when Gerald asks you all who was the best hoster, just go ahead and make sure that you just let him know it was Jax with Outpost Gray. I'm just kidding. I love Eric and Josh too. All right, I'm out. That's all I got. Bye.